In today's world, there are certain milestones that seem to carry an unspoken weight, expectations that society often places on our shoulders, whether we consciously realize it or not. Among the most prominent are the pressure to get married and the desire to own a house. These two milestones are often seen as the ultimate indicators of success, stability, and adulthood. They're the moments when life is supposed to fall into place. But when did these milestones become synonymous with our worth or our happiness? And why do so many of us feel like we're not measuring up if we haven't crossed them off the list? Think about it for a moment. You've likely heard the phrase, settling down, thrown around since childhood, accompanied by an almost romanticized idea of what it means to lead a successful, happy life. The narrative is clear. Get married, buy a house, and everything else will fall into place. But here's the question we need to ask. Whose dream is that really? Is it your own, or is it a construct that society, family, and the media have ingrained in us over the years? This pressure isn't just about two tangible markers on a to-do list. It's about the deeper implications of feeling inadequate if we're not keeping up with this prescribed version of success. It's about understanding that our worth, our path, and our happiness aren't defined by anyone else's expectations, no matter how loudly they may be projected. The real question is, are we making these decisions based on what we truly want, or are we just ticking boxes that we've been told will validate us? 1. The story starts early. The story starts early, almost from the moment we're born. Society begins to weave a narrative for us, one we are too young to question, but one that will eventually become the framework we're expected to live within. From a young age, we're gently and consistently taught how to grow up, but here's the catch. No one ever really defines what it means to be an adult. Instead, we're subtly directed down a preordained path, one that seems almost automatic, so natural, in fact, that we rarely stop to question its origin or its destination. The blueprint for our lives is laid out in a series of well-meaning yet narrow steps. Study hard so you can get into a good school. Graduate, find a stable job, save up enough money to buy a house, get married, and have kids. These are the milestones, the markers of success, the promises that society makes about what will bring fulfillment. Follow this script, and you're on the right track. Deviate from it, and you risk being viewed with confusion, or worse, pity. The expectation is clear. This is the right way to live. But somewhere along the line, the pressure to follow this path doesn't just feel like advice, it begins to feel like an unspoken command. No one hands you a piece of paper and says, "Here, sign this and commit to living this life." But the weight of societal norms and expectations carries an implicit demand to follow suit. There's a clear narrative that, if you stray too far from it, you'll find yourself isolated, or worse, misunderstood. And so, we go along with it, not because we've consciously chosen this path, but because it's the one we were given. Over time, what starts as gentle guidance transforms into a sense of obligation, like there's no other alternative. We start to believe that the only way to succeed, to be seen as successful, is to check off the prescribed boxes, finish school, land a secure job, buy a home, marry, and have children. And here's the catch: at some point, it doesn't feel like a choice anymore. It feels like the only option available to us. The narrative we've been handed becomes so ingrained in us that we rarely stop to ask, is this truly the life I want for myself? Or am I living according to my own values and dreams, or someone else's? As we grow older, the idea of a fulfilled life seems inherently tied to these milestones. It's almost as if we can't imagine happiness, peace, or success beyond this formula. The idea of deviating from this path becomes a risk that feels too great, a leap into the unknown that feels dangerous, and when we do question it, when we consider taking a different path, the reactions from others can be overwhelming. There's an unspoken look of confusion, sometimes even pity, as if we've strayed too far from what is considered normal. In many ways, it's as if there's an invisible contract we've all signed, one that binds us to a certain vision of what life is supposed to look like: marriage, homeownership, children, and anyone who doesn't adhere to this template risks being labeled as someone who hasn't figured it out yet. The pressure to follow this script becomes not just external, but internal, a constant reminder that if we want to be seen as successful, we have to tick off those boxes. But who set these rules in the first place? Why is it that this formula of success is so widely accepted, yet so few of us ever stop to consider whether it truly fits with our own desires and aspirations? Why does society continue to push this narrative when there are so many different ways to define a fulfilling and successful life? The truth is, we often don't realize how much we've internalized this blueprint until we start questioning it. And when we do question it, the responses from the world around us can make us feel like rebels, like we're trying to reinvent the wheel. The truth is, this preordained path isn't the only way to live, and it certainly doesn't hold the key to everyone's happiness. But it can be incredibly difficult to imagine a life beyond the one we've been taught to expect. What happens when we decide to forge our own path? What happens when we choose not to buy a house, not to follow the timeline of marriage and kids, or not to pursue a traditional career? For many, this feels like a radical act. But the real question is, why should it? Why should living life on our own terms feel like something out of the ordinary? The answer lies in how much we've been conditioned to believe that this specified path is the only one that leads to success. 2. When are you getting married? A casual question, a silent wait. You turn 25, then 27, then 30. The years pass, and with each birthday, the pressure subtly increases. What was once a collection of casual comments and passing remarks begins to feel like a weight bearing down on you, an unspoken expectation that grows with time. At first, it seems harmless, just small talk at family gatherings, casual conversations during festive seasons. But soon, it becomes harder to ignore. Family meals, which used to be lighthearted and full of laughter, start to feel heavier. The simple act of sitting around the table with your loved ones is no longer a moment of pure connection. Instead, it's tinged with the quiet discomfort of unspoken questions. Lunar New Year gatherings, once a time of joy and celebration, now require a different kind of emotional preparation. The warmth of the season is overshadowed by a sense of unease as you brace yourself for the familiar barrage of questions that seem to come from every direction. It's as though these questions are on a loop, repeated year after year, with little regard for how you feel about them. The inquiries come gently at first, almost like playful nudges. But as the years slip by, their weight becomes undeniable. When are you getting married? Someone asks, as if there's a clear, universal timeline that you should be following. It's a simple question, yet it feels like a subtle judgment, like you're being measured against a yardstick you never agreed to. The questions escalate. Girls who don't marry early will suffer, an elder remarks, with a certain finality in their voice. It's not meant to hurt, but the implication is clear. If you haven't found someone by a certain age, there's something wrong, something lacking in you. And even though you know it's not meant with malice, you can't help but feel the pressure building. The weight of those words starts to sink in, and you start to question yourself. Maybe they're right. Maybe this is something you should have figured out by now. Are you really planning to be alone forever? Someone asks, their voice tinged with genuine concern, but it cuts all the same. It feels like a spotlight has been turned on you, forcing you to confront the very thing you've been quietly avoiding. The simple question, asked with the best intentions, makes you wonder if you've somehow missed the mark in life. You start to look around and see friends who are married, families who seem to have it all together, and you begin to feel the weight of comparison. What's wrong with you? Why haven't you figured this out yet? None of it is meant to hurt, but with each passing year, the pressure intensifies. It starts to feel less like friendly conversation and more like a timeline being placed on your shoulders. A timeline you never asked for, yet one that seems to follow you everywhere. You can almost hear the ticking clock in the background, reminding you that time is passing. The fear begins to creep in, quiet at first, but undeniable. Maybe I should just marry someone and get it over with. It'll make everyone happy. It'll be easier. The thought is fleeting, but it lingers longer than you want it to. And then another thought follows, one that's even more unsettling. Is there something wrong with me for not being settled yet? You try to push it away, but it clings to you like a shadow. You never expected that your value would be measured by a timeline that someone else has imposed on you. You never thought you'd have to defend your choices, your life, your pace. But somehow here you are, caught in the tension between what you want and what others expect. And yet, you still find yourself questioning, still wondering if it's too late, still wondering if you've missed your chance. The struggle isn't just about the questions you're asked, it's about the internal dialogue that follows, the doubt that begins to take root in your heart. The truth is, you don't have to answer anyone else's timeline. You don't have to settle just to appease others. But with each question, with each remark, it becomes harder to ignore the pressure. It's a quiet war between living authentically and living by the rules someone else has set. And the hardest part is realizing that the battle isn't just external, it's internal too. 3. But what does settled even mean? And to whom? Stability doesn't always look the way society expects it to. We've been taught that stability means having a traditional life, getting married, buying a house, having children, and maintaining a picture-perfect family dinner every night. But in reality, stability is a deeply personal thing. It doesn't come in one-size-fits-all packaging. For some, stability might not involve a sprawling home with a white picket fence. It might be something as simple as finding peace in a modest apartment that feels like a sanctuary. For others, stability could be defined by a career that ignites their passion and provides a sense of fulfillment. It might mean quiet evenings spent reading a book, enjoying solitude, and finding comfort in the stillness of life. That kind of stability, built on personal satisfaction and contentment, is just as real and valuable as any other form. And then there are those who find stability in different ways. For some, it's about living in the heart of a bustling city with a partner and children, building a life filled with shared experiences and memories. The stability they seek is not found in solitude or simplicity, but in the chaos and joy of family life, in the rhythm of managing responsibilities and growing together. But here's the thing, neither is right or wrong. What stability means to you is completely different from what it means to someone else. There's no universal template to follow. The beauty of life lies in its diversity, the ways in which we each define what it means to feel secure, content, and at peace. The real question to ask yourself isn't about whether your life looks like the perfect version of stability that others may expect. The real question is this life truly your choice, or are you merely surrendering to the societal pressures that surround you? Are you choosing a life that reflects who you are, or are you following a path that someone else has laid out for you? Stability, in its purest form, is not about meeting societal milestones. It's about creating a life that aligns with your values, your desires, and your sense of purpose. It's about living in a way that feels right for you, not dictated by external standards or expectations. So, take a moment to reflect on your choices. Ask yourself if they come from a place of genuine self-discovery, or if they are simply a response to the world telling you what you should want. The answer may be different for everyone, but the most important thing is that it's your answer. 4. Some questions only you can answer. Have you ever sat down in the quiet of your own thoughts and asked yourself the tough questions? Questions that might reveal something deeper than the surface-level desires we often follow without much reflection. Do I truly want to get married because it feels right for me, or am I just afraid of being labeled as someone who's left behind? Someone who hasn't kept up with the timeline others seem to have mapped out for their lives? Do I really want to buy a house, or am I simply terrified of being seen as someone with no clear direction? Someone who's stuck in a temporary phase without any real plans for the future? Do I know what my ideal life looks like, free from anyone else's judgments, opinions, or societal pressures? What would it look like if I could live it with no one else watching, no one else telling me what's normal or expected? We often find ourselves caught up in a race, not toward something that genuinely excites us, but rather toward an end goal that we've been told is the only path to success and fulfillment. But in the midst of all this striving, we sometimes lose sight of what it is. We truly want not what others expect, but what we feel deep inside, beyond the noise of everyone else's opinions. There's a tendency, a trap even, to live a life that isn't truly ours. We find ourselves making decisions not based on our own desires and passions, but on the unspoken pressure of the world around us. We live the life that others have laid out for us, the one that fits into the neat boxes of societal norms and expectations. But the problem is, this isn't our life. It's just the path we've been nudged down without ever fully considering if it aligns with who we are and who we truly want to become. We often forget that other people's expectations of us are not the same as our obligations to ourselves. Just because the world says we should achieve certain things by a certain age, just because everyone around us seems to be ticking off boxes in a preset order, doesn't mean we have to do the same. Other people's timelines are not our own, and their idea of success should not define what success means to us. There's a deep freedom in recognizing that we can choose a different path, one that might not look like what's typically expected, but one that feels more authentic to who we are. This realization is powerful because it allows us to step away from the shadow of external judgment and truly create a life that fits our own dreams, goals, and values. A life that we can look back on and say, I lived this because it was right for me, not because it was what others thought I should do. So take a moment to reflect. Are you living your life for you or for everyone else? Are you chasing after milestones because they resonate with your soul, or because the world told you they were the only valid ones to chase? It's never too late to pause, reevaluate, and decide to live a life that truly belongs to you, not to the expectations that others have placed on you. Your journey is yours to define. 5. Freedom means knowing what you're choosing and why. Getting married isn't wrong. Buying a house isn't wrong. Having children, building a family, these can be beautiful choices, but only when they come from you. Not because you're scared of being compared, not because it's time, not because everyone's doing it. Freedom isn't about rebelling against society. Freedom is about deeply understanding yourself and choosing what truly fits you, even if it's not what most people would choose. In conclusion, and in that moment, you've already proven something incredible. You are braver than most. This life is yours. It always has been. No one else gets to dictate its shape or its pace. You owe no one a marriage, no one a house, and certainly no one an explanation. What you owe is something far more important, the courage to live a life that's truly yours. A life that, when you pause and look back on it, fills you with peace instead of regret. A life where you can smile and say, with complete honesty, this was my choice. That's the real measure of living authentically, not in meeting everyone else's expectations, but in honoring your own desires, your own truths. And when you can do that, you'll know you've created something that is more than just a life. It's the life you are meant to live.
Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.